If you've been anywhere near sports news lately, you've definitely felt that buzz around the WNBA. And two names just keep popping up everywhere: Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers. You've seen the headlines, the highlights, those comparisons. Maybe you've even watched them play and felt that energy. It feels like more than just two great players, doesn't it? There's definitely a story being built around them. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Today, we're not just looking at, a basketball rivalry starting up. We're really diving into how that rivalry is being crafted, why it's becoming so powerful. Our sources, including one analysis called Caitlin Clark versus Paige Bueckers, WNBA's crafted rivalry, they suggest there's this kind of smart, strategic storytelling engine working behind the scenes. And when we say strategic storytelling engine, what we mean is it's the deliberate ways, often kind of subtle, that leagues and the media shape stories around athletes, to get people engaged, build interest, and, well, ultimately grow the sport.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here, I think, is getting under the hood, understanding the mechanics of it all. We'll explore not just that this rivalry exists, pretty clear, but why. Why are the media, why is the league so invested in building this particular story? We'll look at the real benefits for fan engagement, for the league's growth. It brings up a big question for us as fans, right? How much of what we're seeing is just pure organic competition? Just athletes competing. And how much is maybe a more carefully put together story designed to pull us all in?
Exactly. And by the end of this deep dive, you'll hopefully be able to see the different layers here. You'll get that sort of insider's view on how these stories get built, why they hit home so much. You'll walk away understanding the game maybe a bit differently, both on and off the court, and maybe see other sports rivalries through a new lens, too. So let's jump right in. The foundation here, it's not all manufactured. Our sources really stress that Clark and Bueckers were like almost ready-made for this story. I mean, they didn't just appear out of nowhere, did they? These two, they have a history. It almost feels like it was set up.
Oh, absolutely. You trace it back, and they've been linked for a while now. Think about high school. They weren't just names in the same class. They were actually facing off in those big national tournaments like the McDonald's All-American game, showing off their skills against each other early on. And our sources point out even those college games, remember Iowa versus UConn? They consistently pulled in massive ratings. We're talking numbers that just smashed previous records for women's regular season college games. That tells you something, right? The public was already interested in seeing them go head-to-head. It was an event, even back then.
And it's not just playing against each other. Their own journeys, their careers have these kind of striking parallels. It almost forces you to compare them. Both came into the WNBA as the #1 overall pick. That's rare enough. It marks them as, the absolute top of their class. But then both of them go on to have these incredible, record-breaking rookie seasons, not just good seasons, but seasons where they really blew past expectations, already putting their names in the history books, scoring, assists, just impact. It's like, yeah, like they were destined to be measured against each other.
Exactly. And you put that together, the shared history of competition, these parallel, super successful starts in the pros, that's a really strong foundation. But then you layer on their contrasting styles of play. And that's where it gets really, really interesting for fans and media. You've got Caitlin Clark, known for that incredible deep-range shooting, pulling up from logo, basically. And she's a playmaker, running the whole offense, those big, flashy plays. On the other side, Paige Bueckers, she's got that mid-range game down to an art. Surgical efficiency, they call it. Getting to the rim, finishing strong. She's seen as this pure scorer, dissecting defenses. That natural clash in styles. It's not just fun to watch, it's narrative gold. It gives fans something concrete to argue about, the flash versus the precision, and admire in different ways.
Okay, so we've got these amazing talents, a built-in history, contrasting styles. That's the perfect recipe, right, for any sports league. But our sources are saying the WNBA isn't just sitting back and watching this unfold. Is that right? It sounds like they're actively pushing this forward, and for good reason, strategically. It's not an accident. So why? What's the league's angle here?
Precisely. If we connect this to the bigger picture. But yeah, it's clear how this kind of strategic rivalry building really boosts the whole sport's marketability, its profile. This particular matchup, Clark-Bueckers, it marks a bit of a shift in the narrative for the WNBA. Last season, especially coming out of college, a lot of the focus was on Clark versus Angel Reese, which was huge, no doubt.
Yeah.
But this analysis we looked at points out that Bueckers is seen as a more direct positional rival to Clark. They're both top guards, right? Both the main offensive creators for their teams. So that creates a cleaner head-to-head comparison on the court, something that maybe resonates more with, the real basketball heads who love guard. It's a different dynamic than the Clark-Reese one.
And the bottom line benefits, what the sources are calling the star power economics, You can't ignore those, can you? Rivalries like this, historically, they just drive everything. Ticket sales, TV ratings shoot up, social media goes crazy. The data in our sources, it mentions the WNBA hitting 2.5 million in attendance this season. That's a big jump, shows the league's really growing. And Clark and Bueckers, they're huge draws. They pack arenas home or away. It's not just ticket sales either, it's merchandise, right? Sponsorship deals, bigger media rights down the line, all tied to the excitement these players generate.
It really is. And look, it's not just an internal lead strategy. You've got people like Dan Patrick, the veteran broadcaster, openly saying Clark Bueckers is the true rivalry the league should really lean into. And what's interesting about his take, Brown's yards crow cone, he get a good point, is his point about their complementary appeal. It's quite insightful. He basically said Clark pulls in the casual fans, her style, the logo threes, the personality. It gets people watching who might not usually tune in. Meanwhile, Bueckers, with her smooth, efficient game, that comeback story, she connects more with the hardcore basketball purists, the fans who love the fundamentals. So you're hitting different audience segments, but both are valuable. It maximizes the league's reach.
Okay, so the stage is perfectly set. You've got the talent. The league strategy is clear.
Yeah.
They want to amplify this. But like you said, it's not just happening. It's being actively built. Like someone's carefully putting this story together. So let's talk about how. What are the media mechanics? How is this narrative actually constructed?
Yeah, and this brings up that important question about how the media can, gently steer how we see things, guide our attention. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes less so. It's not always about saying this is the rivalry. Sometimes it's just about what gets highlighted, what gets compared, and when. Outlets like ESPN, for example, they've been pretty consistent with what our sources call selective spotlighting. They're constantly ranking Clark and Bueckers, comparing them directly. Often one player's success, or even their struggles, gets framed right next to the other's performance, or even their absence. Like the sources mentioned examples where maybe a segment on Clark's scoring run would immediately cut to a detailed look at Bueckers' efficiency stats. It almost forces the comparison in your mind, makes them rivals.
And they grab onto those specific viral moments too, don't they, and blow them up, like that Bueckers 44-point game. The sources called it the most efficient high-scoring game in WNBA history. Amazing achievement, right? But boom, almost instantly it's being talked about alongside Clark being out injured or maybe her adjusting to the league. That's not just reporting news. It creates that what-if buzz, or it sparks the who's really better right now debate online. It fuels exactly the kind of talk that drives engagement.
Absolutely. And sometimes this narrative building even dips into speculation as fuel, which definitely adds intrigue, maybe some controversy too. Our sources mention commentators, like Jason Whitlock, who've actually suggested the league might be kind of comfortable with Clark being sidelined for a bit, implying it helps elevate Bueckers as another major star. Now, whether there's any truth to that, who knows? But just putting that idea out there adds another layer of drama. It gets fans wondering about motives, keeps the story going even when they aren't playing each other. That kind of speculation, true or not, it's a powerful way to keep people hooked.
But it's not all just simple hero stories, is it? There seems to be a difference, sometimes subtle, sometimes not, in how Clark and Bueckers are portrayed. Our sources touch on this. It brings us to this idea some are calling the double standard debate. It's a nuance in the coverage that's definitely worth looking at.
And this really invites us, as fans, to think about the lens we're using when we watch sports and consume the media around it. Are we picking up on these subtle differences? And what might they suggest about wider perceptions, maybe even some biases in sports media? Analysts like Rachel Demita, she's pointed out that the way the media treats Clark and Bueckers can differ quite a bit. In the framing, the level of scrutiny. For instance, Clark's amazing college run, and then her early WNBA adjustments. Sometimes that led to really intense criticism. Headlines questioning her efficiency, her leadership when things maybe didn't go perfectly. On the flip side, Bueckers' rise, especially coming back from major injuries, it's often framed as this triumphant comeback story, emphasizing her resilience, the joy of her return. That difference in the coverage tone, it suggests there might be underlying biases at play, maybe based on expectations or prior stories or even just their public personas.
That's a really interesting point, and you can kind of see it play out in those public perception swings. Clark's rapid rise, it felt like it was met with almost inevitable pushback eventually. Intense scrutiny as she hit the pros, debates about shot selection, turnovers. It almost felt like some people were saying, too much too soon.
Yeah.
Whereas Bueckers, coming back from those injuries, her story has consistently been framed as this feel-good comeback, overcoming adversity, grit, determination. It's a very different kind of emotional journey the media often highlights, right? And that shapes how fans connect with them personally. One's under this huge pressure cooker spotlight, the other's celebrated for overcoming physical hurdles.
And that framing difference, it can really shape how the public relates to each of them. It's important for us to just be aware of how these stories get constructed. Which narratives get pushed forward? One is often put under the microscope of massive expectations. The other is celebrated for defying the odds. Both are compelling stories, of course. But the way they're told creates different experiences, both for the players and for us watching. Being aware helps us consume it all a bit more critically, maybe appreciate the complexities a bit more.
So, okay, we've got the natural talent, the history, the league pushing it strategically, the media shaping the narrative. Why does this whole thing work so well? And why does it feel like it's built to last? It doesn't seem like just a flash in the pan. It feels designed for the long haul.
Well, it's almost like a textbook case of how to sustain fan interest. It draws from those legendary rivalries we've seen before. That built-in drama you mentioned is absolutely crucial. Things like injuries, unfortunately, or record-breaking games, and especially those rare head-to-head matchups everyone waits for. They constantly refresh the story. Keep it unpredictable. Every big shot, every tough loss, every milestone reached, every comeback, it's like a new plot point. There's always something new to talk about, a new angle. It keeps the rivalry from feeling stale, like a good TV series you can't wait to see the next episode of.
Yeah, exactly. And it taps into something deeper in sports culture, that cultural resonance. We've seen it with Magic versus Bird in the NBA, right? That rivalry basically defined an era, took the league to a whole new level of popularity. Or think about Federer versus Nadal in tennis. They're different styles, personalities. It wasn't just great tennis, it elevated the whole sport, pulled in tons of new fans, made tennis feel huge. Clark versus Bueckers, it has that same kind of potential to go beyond just basketball fans and become a bigger cultural thing.
And maybe the most compelling part, which the source really emphasizes, is the future promise. I mean, both of them are still so early in their pro careers. This isn't a rivalry between players near the end. We're talking years, potentially, of more games against each other, more records they could break, more awards. The media has potentially years of storylines they can weave. This narrative could genuinely anchor WNBA coverage and fan excitement for the next decade or more, making it a real cornerstone for the league's identity and continued growth. So ultimately, yeah, the Clark Bueckers thing, it's more than just basketball. It really is this strategic storytelling engine. It helps sell the sport, gets fans more invested because you have these compelling figures, and it gives the WNBA this really marketable rivalry, something they can build around for a long, long time. It's that powerful mix of amazing real talent and some very smart, deliberate narrative crafting.
So what we've seen is how this Clark-Bueckers rivalry is this really interesting mix. Part natural talent and history, part very deliberate storytelling, driven by their past, by the league's needs, and by some pretty clever media work. It really is, like our sources said, a golden ticket for the WNBA as it keeps growing and getting more popular. It shows that sometimes the best sports stories are the ones carefully built around incredible athletes.
Yeah, this whole deep dive really highlights just how powerful these narratives are in sports, how much they shape how we see things, how invested we get. It does make you wonder, doesn't it? As fans, how much are we reacting to just the pure competition we see on the court? And how much are we maybe drawn in by that strategic storytelling engine that works around it, enhancing it, and thinking bigger? What other rivalries out there, maybe in other sports, past or present, might have benefited or are benefiting from that same kind of calculated mix, that blend of marketing, history, timing, maybe sometimes without us even fully realizing it?
Definitely something to think about next time you're watching a big game, whatever the sport. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the crafted rivalry.